Hello and welcome to the Wonder Women series of the Maker Mom podcast. My name is Katie Freeman and I am your host. Every week I bring you 2 episodes of a fabulous female and non-binary makers of all kinds, some of them moms, some of them not. This week's guest is a couple guest and it is Britt and Shannon of Britt Builds. I've been following Britt Builds for a while now, and I really enjoy seeing what Britt and Shannon are up to in the shop, what they're making, and it was really great to get to chat with them and find out, and hear about their journey into making and journey into making as a couple, especially. So I think you will definitely enjoy this interview. But before we hop on into it, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to the patrons over on Patreon. So thank you so much, Lauren of Rasp File Designs, Sven, Dwarf Sized Workshop, Rachel, Moody of Moody Makes, Bonnie, Toolmom Bonnie, ToolmomStore.com, Laura Oakley Soap Company, Mary Lou Made by Mary Lou, Amy Bison Valley Carving, Dan and Kelly Reclaim Living Store, Brandy Studio Obey, Kathy One Girl and Her Tools, Ellen Little Bear Furniture, and Ethan Carter Designs. I thank you all so very much for supporting the podcast on an ongoing and regular basis. It helps make 2 episodes a week possible, so thank you very, very much. All right, with no further ado, this is Britt and Shannon of Britt Builds. Well, ladies, I have guests of the podcast do their own introductions. So I'm going to let you tell everybody who you are.
Sure. Well, my name is Britt.
And I'm Shannon.
We're from Vancouver, BC. We are a married maker couple. We are full-time business women in the corporate world, but we spend all of our spare time either in the workshop or playing hockey. And that's pretty much us in a nutshell.
All right. So I'm going to probably dive into all of those aspects as we get going here. But I want to do a little bit of talking about like your childhood. Like, where'd you guys grow up? What kind of things were you interested in?
Sure. Do you want me to start?
Yeah, you go.
Okay. So I was born and raised on the west coast of Canada. I was a tomboy growing up. I liked to skateboard a lot. I played a lot of ringette, which is a Canadian sport that's kind of like hockey. It's mostly played by girls. It's played on the ice, the same equipment, but you have like a stick and a ring instead of a hockey stick with a puck. So that took up a lot of my childhood. But yeah, typical tomboy. Climbing trees, building bike jumps, building skateboard ramps. That was me.
Me, I'm born and raised on the east coast of Canada, in Nova Scotia. Much like Britt, I grew up playing hockey. I was in the trees, and I too played ringette. So I always say, if we would have met earlier, we would have been the best of friends.
Yeah.
And it's just active lifestyle, playing sports, and I was a tomboy as well. So.
All right. Well, I thank you both for explaining what ringette is.
Yes.
I have no idea.
It's really not it's not nearly as popular as hockey, obviously. It's more rare. So then when we first met each other and it was like, I played ringette, you played ringette? What? That was like one of our first bonding experiences.
Yeah.
All right. Do you think like a lot of the other girls that you guys played ringette with, did like they all go on to kind of get into playing hockey as well?
Yes.
Yeah, it does
My
seem to go that route, because you get really good at ice skating in ringette. And then if you transfer over to hockey, then you have the opportunity for scholarships and things like that. And just more competition, because there's a lot more people playing hockey. So a lot of people do switch over, but there is still ringette at our age. They do still play.
Okay.
There's only so far you can go in ringette, so people normally switch over to hockey.
Gotcha. What about post high school? What was that like?
Post high school,
Yeah.
I went to university. I did a 4-year degree. I have a bachelor's in psychology. And then I started working in business intelligence and kept up with my education. So I got a certificate in database administration, super boring data, computer stuff. Kept on that was when I had switched over to hockey fully. So I was playing a lot of co-ed hockey and enjoying that. Traveling a lot. I went all over Southeast Asia and all over South America, and lived in Costa Rica for a few years. That was my post high school life.
Me, I took the first year off after high school. I got diagnosed with celiac disease, so wanted to take that time to heal. And then I went on and I got a bachelor in science and nutrition and biology. And then after that, I went on and I did another bachelor degree in accounting. And then I just continued on in accounting, doing that in the corporate world and helping you on the side.
All right. So Britt, when you were you playing hockey when you were at university then? Like for the
university.
Okay.
I was new to hockey at that time, so not nearly good enough to play with the university girls.
All right. And
although I wish.
and Shannon, I have to ask, like, why the change from science to accounting? Like, that just seems like an interesting change.
It is. It's a complete 180. I was working at the hospital at the time, and I was working in nutrition and food service. And there was one aspect about that job that I really liked, and it was working with spreadsheets and, kind of the business part of things. And I really grew to like that. And I was like, I think I have to go back for my calling. So I ended up doing another bachelor degree, another 4 years. But it was worth it because it got me to where I am now, and I'm enjoying it so far.
Okay, cool. Very cool. Where does the kind of making start happening and the woodworking start happening?
For me, I can almost pinpoint it to grade 6. So that's about 11, 12 years old. I took a woodworking course in school, and I remember like running through the hallways down to that classroom so that I could maximize like every second there. I built a cutting board in that class, and I still use that cutting board today. It's got Britt stamped on the side, Britt 2002. And then ever since that class, like for the rest of high school, I took every single making elective that I could, whether that be metalwork or woodwork or battle bots or anything I could get my hands on. I did. I don't know why I didn't end up going into the trades. Like I should have recognized like this was a passion, but I kind of went the route of academia and went to college. So now it's a side hustle, which I enjoy all the same.
And how about you, Shannon? When did making become part of your world?
Well, definitely. I think it definitely became big when I met you. But when I was 3 years old, I did tell my mom that I wanted to be a carpenter, which was quite funny. But working with you, I feel like I've become more of a breaker and you're more of a maker. So if you saw a couple of our videos, I'm blowing up light bulbs and breaking scroll saw blades. So
we are learning.
We're learning.
There you go. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's never a failed project. It's just about what did you learn from that project.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah. So since you are a couple and I have you both on, I have to ask, how did you meet?
It is like a super complicated like lesbian love triangle. But to put it simply, we met through a mutual friend at hockey.
Okay.
While she was living on the East Coast and I was living on the West Coast, but then she moved out to the West Coast and we realized we had a lot of things in common. You know, started playing hockey together and things like that. And yeah.
And
Yeah, the more we found out about each other, the closer we got. So
yeah. The very first time I met Shannon, I actually picked her up from the airport for the mutual friend. The mutual friend asked if I could pick up her friend that was coming in to visit, and I said, I guess I can do that. So I went out to the airport with my dog and picked up Shannon, and we got to chatting in the car, and yeah.
He's very kind. Picking up a stranger.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you have been married for a year now, right?
Yep.
Yep.
June 22nd was a year.
Awesome. And, you know, for those who listen / watch this podcast, if they aren't following you, they don't realize like how much of a DIY wedding that you guys put together.
We did.
Like lots of log slices. I remember seeing lots and lots of log slices.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did all of those like little wood cookies that all of our guests signed. So that we had like a wall of them up on magnets, like just this huge grid of slices. So they all signed and left little notes for us, which was really nice. But we made the arch. We made like the little thing that carries the rings. We made that out of a piece of walnut. We made the cake stand for the cupcakes, the little tiers. Yeah. We made, what else was
Candle holders,
all the table decor. My mom, who she was a DIY mother for sure and a maker by nature. She did all like, I just threw it on her. I was like, I don't want to pay the ridiculous prices for flowers. Can you whip something up? And she's like, never done it before, but sure. And she put together like beautiful bouquets and floral arrangements. So that, yeah.
And Britt's sister pretty much planned it in 3 months. So we kind of sprung it on them and went right to work. So,
yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How does it feel to have like that big of a part in like every aspect of the wedding?
It felt really good.
It did.
Like, it was just exactly how we wanted it, but it was also like super simple. Both of us agreed like those weddings at like golf courses or in like convention centers where you have those weird chair covers and like we did not want that. We were like, our venue was actually like a co-op artist studio. So there was like 40 different artist studios and then like a main center room, but there was all windows in that main room to all of the different artist studios. So I really thought that was kind of on brand for us.
Very fitting, yeah.
And we had a food truck show up serving tacos. That was our main course. And
people still talk about the tacos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no, that felt really good. And then it was just really cool to have, like, we had a professional photographer, so he got all of these great shots of all of like the cool things that we made for it. So that was extra special. And yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I wish I would have like realized my full-on potential before I got married, because then I probably would have done some of that as well. But ours was pretty low key. Ours was technically just the two of us on a beach, so that was as low key as you can get. Yeah. Okay, so where in your story does kind of Britt Build start to come along and become this side hustle that you're getting into?
I mean, when I first met you, we would spend, our Friday nights in the garage. You would be tinkering around, and
I was working on my truck when I first met her, which was like this old truck that did not work. And I was spending all my nights in the workshop. And I was in the workshop thinking like, I am never going to meet a girl if I'm just in the workshop every night. I need to get out there and meet somebody. So I'm very grateful that I met Shannon, and she was happy spending time in the shop with me. I think even during that time, I was following a lot of people on Instagram, but kind of like anonymously. I didn't have an account, but I was following, Anna of all trades and April Wilkerson and those guys, and just kind of like wishing like that I was more like them. So then I remember it was actually right at New Year's. So it's kind of like a New Year's resolution. Like I was January 1st that I started Britt Builds, because I was like, if I want to be more like them, take steps to be more like them. Let's get an online presence. Let's start sharing what we do. I already had like a whole 5 years of backlog of projects, because I always take before and afters of my projects and things like that. So it kind of was a New Year's resolution to start sharing what I was doing. And I'm so grateful that I did, because, being anonymous in the community is not nearly as fun as being more upfront in the community. Just all of the help that's available, all of the advice and the tips, and just the love that you feel when you're more involved in the community. I'm so grateful for. So, I kind of wish that on the onset when I made Britt Builds that I had, Britt Builds is me and Shannon, but it has my name, so it kind of leans towards me. I kind of wish I had created a name that kind of involved us both, because behind the scenes, it is very much the both of us. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It totally resonates with me what you're saying about the community, though. Like when I first put stuff out on, especially Instagram, like just because I honestly started on my Instagram just as my business account, and I still don't have like a personal account or anything like that on there. And I remember thinking and starting it just because I'm like, oh, this is like something you do when you're a small business. You should do this thing. And I really had no intention or really understanding that you can meet and like actually become friends with a community of people who are doing the same things you are doing. And so at first it was like all, putting out stuff and not understanding like just that it is about growing relationships, and it's a nice tool for really tapping into that community.
It's such a powerful tool.
Yeah.
It's a great tool. Like the other day, the lighting in my garage went out. Like the light fixture, I don't know, there's 2 LED bulbs. They both went out at the same time. My garage was dark. So I was thinking, I know it's not the bulbs because they both went out at the same time. I think must be the light fixture. So I got to replace this whole thing. I don't know how expensive that's going to be. I put it out on my Instagram. I was like, hey, what's going on? How do I test like what the problem is? A guy at Make Tinker Share, he went into my DMs and he was like, let's walk through this. So he walked me through the whole process of testing the ballast, testing the power source, testing the switch. And we actually found out it was the switch. I replaced the switch. I've got light in my garage again. And that was all like thanks to the community, that I didn't have to buy like this expensive fixture. I just needed like a couple dollars to replace the switch, and we've got light again. It was just like those little things that is just so helpful. And just to be able to like reach out to like, thousands of like intelligent people to give you help on all these different topics is just like awesome.
Yeah, it definitely is. Now I feel like there's a really strong like in-person maker community in Canada. Are you guys tapped into that at all?
No, a little bit on the West Coast here. I know there's a lot of people locally. Lately, with the pandemic and such, it's online, but we haven't got too involved in the in-person meetings, but a little bit. There's Birdman the welder we meet up with, and
the manufacturing we meet up with.
As I think about it, there's probably about 5 people that I know now in real life through the Instagram maker community.
Have you gone to any of the conferences? Any of the
I
maker
haven't.
conferences? Yeah.
I so want to,
A
and
goal.
I look on in envy at Workbench Con. Like I would love to go to Workbench Con. That just seems so awesome. I'm always so jealous when I'm watching the stories, but it is a goal. And I mean, if it is on in February, which I doubt, I will be there. But maybe February 2022.
They recently announced, I believe they're looking at pushing it back to May with hopes that it could be
Nice.
in person.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, they have a sister conference called Haven Conference, which is a lot of bloggers kind of go to that conference, and they had made it virtual. The kind of, I think it was late summers when they have that, and so there was some talk about, oh, maybe Workbench Con will become virtual, and they just decided no. There's really just no substitute for that in person
networking.
which I was happy to hear. Like, I'd rather they just push it off until it's like safer anyways for us to get together.
I agree.
I was lucky enough to be at the one this year in February, and now it feels like 10 years ago. Between February and October, it feels like the world has completely changed.
A whole different place.
So you mentioned kind of a few, kind of big people in the maker space, like Anna of all Trades and April. Have you had any chance, even just through Instagram and stuff, to network with them or pick their brains about anything?
Not a whole lot directly, although when I do get a message back from those guys, like, I completely fangirl and just like Laura Kampf is another big one. I got some of her stickers in the mail with her signature and stuff, and that was like another like fangirl, put it on the fridge. Oh my goodness. But yeah, it's more the smaller makers that I network with and communicate back and forth. I mean, I understand those big guys get so many messages every day.
Yeah.
They can't keep up.
Yeah.
But
I will admit, I had Laura on a couple weeks ago for the Wonder Women series, and when I did her interview, it was a little bit like, I can even tell, like, rewatching it, like the first like 5 minutes, like, yeah, that's me being a total dork and like trying to shut my head up going, you're talking to Laura Kampf, kind of thing.
We both listened to that episode, actually.
Yeah, it was excellent getting to kind of get real with her, at least towards the end of the podcast. So, hey makers. Today's episode is brought to you by Tool Mom and Company, or some of you know her as Tool Mom Bonnie. She has all kinds of tool-related merchandise of gifts and clothing for all ages and genders available at toolmomstore.com. I have 2 of the coffee mugs. One says Go Girl, and it has a circular saw with flames coming off the back, which is super sweet. And then the other one is the definition of a tool chick, which just makes you feel kind of badass when you're drinking out of it. So if you are in the market, especially as we're getting close to Christmas, for any tool-related merchandise, be that gifts or clothing, make sure you head on over to toolmomstore.com. And extra bonus, you can receive 20% off at checkout if you use the coupon code MakerMom. All right, let's jump back into the episode. All right, well, what is kind of on, I mean, you're doing it as a side hustle right now, but is there a hope that you can do it full time at some point in time?
I mean, that is like a dream to do that full time. But there is hesitation. Like, at the moment, I can kind of do it at my own pace. There's no pressure because it's not my only income. So when I go out into the workshop, it's by choice and I enjoy every second of it. The hesitation with when it becomes a full-time gig of, I need to go into the workshop today, I need to produce this, I need to sell this, there is some worry that will kind of take the fun out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there is like a dream that one day I would just be in the workshop making things and selling things and not have to sign into my corporate job. But honestly, at the moment, how it is, especially with working from home, which gives me a bit more time in the workshop, like I enjoy every second of it. So where we are at right now is quite nice as well.
Okay. Now, when you're making things in the shop, I mean, like, what kind of ratio are you working with? Are you making like mostly stuff for you? Are you making, custom order stuff, that people are reaching out and saying, hey, can you make this for me? Or are you just like making your own designs and seeing if they catch on?
Mix of both.
Yeah, a bit of a mix of both. In the last 3 months, I've been gung-ho with the wood mosaics. I've been doing a lot of those. So I've had custom orders for those, people wanting to fit like a specific color scheme, or I'm just making series of my own patterns, and most of those have just been sold to friends and family through word of mouth. Prior to 3 months ago, when I was going hard with the wood mosaics, it was kind of just I would be making things for birthday gifts and charcuterie boards and things like that. And then friends and family knew that, I had the tools and I had the skills if they needed projects done. So I was doing that kind of on an ad hoc basis.
You did the job for the laundry.
Yeah, that was our biggest project to date, where we did like pallet wall, like pallet board.
Oh yeah, I
wall.
remember seeing you guys do that.
Yeah. That was a big project downtown Vancouver. All of the walls of this kind of modern laundromat got covered with the pallet wall, and then we did like their reception desk and all that. That was a big project.
Then you did a few smaller jobs for them as well.
Yeah.
You made a bed, a princess bed.
Yeah, they've been very, very good clients, those guys. They keep on.
How'd they find you?
They someone on Instagram was like, hey, I know these people that want this pallet wall done. I don't have the time for it. Do you want this project? So I said sure. So that's how that came about. It was through Instagram.
Awesome. A project like that, of that scope, how do you even begin to start figuring out what to price that at?
There's so much research and trial and error. In hindsight, I'd probably underbid. But at the same time, I have that freedom with it being a side hustle that, we enjoyed doing the project and we enjoyed the result, and we get so much satisfaction out of the result. And so long as, our materials were covered and some of our time was covered, we were happy with it. But in hindsight, I probably could have charged a lot more for it. So for next time, I know that I'm make sure that I get paid for it better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all of that stuff, just out of curiosity, like the person who reached out to you and said, hey, do you have time? Can you do this? Like, is that their full-time job, like doing work like that?
Yeah, that was their full-time gig. Not necessarily full-time pallet wall, feature wall.
Right.
They're full-time like carpenter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen, I know at least here in the US during the pandemic, things like DIY projects have like really kicked into gear because everybody's stuck at home. So, they're doing DIY furniture or just like room remodels and stuff like that. Is it the same there? Have you had any
It
trouble?
definitely is the same. The lumber shortage, because everyone's redoing their decks and things like that. Yeah, we definitely see it up here, and it's great.
The manufacturing was making the mask clips to make them more comfortable to wear. He was pumping those out.
Yeah, the 3D printing farms that have been up here since the pandemic started have been really great.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been going into any like Lowe's or Home Depot when, I used to be able to count on like, oh, I just need to pick up some poplar for this project, and doing it like the day I need to work with it. Yeah, you can't
Mhm.
do that anymore because there's no guarantee that there will actually be anything on the shelf when you show up.
Yeah,
Right.
I think we have a little less of a problem getting lumber, but I think the prices have gone up a little bit and the quality's
Mhm.
not quite as good, but it's, if you look around, it's there.
What type of lumber do you like to work with predominantly?
With the mosaics, it's cedar
Mm-hmm.
because it smells good and it comes in the dimensions that I want. I would like to get to the point where I can kind of resaw my own wood for the mosaics from pine or whatever. I'm not really a fine woodworker by any means, so I'm not working with a ton of hardwood and things like that. I am very lucky that my brother is an arborist, so he chops down trees for a living. So he's been able to get me like black walnut sometimes, and he got me all this laburnum wood, which is super pretty that we make the coasters with. So my nice wood comes from my brother when he finds good scores, and then when I buy the wood myself, it's usually just cedar or pine.
So does your wood storage look like my wood storage then? If you've got all those logs laying around, that it's like a room full of wood?
Just stacks of logs drying, like hoarder status.
It's tucked into our closets.
Yeah. Yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah, mine's crept in. I finally got all of my racks up at my shop, and so all my slabs, my hardwood slabs, are up on those, and then the floor is like all lined with just like logs and like everywhere. And then the logs have crept into our home garage as well. So yeah, it's
nice.
It's one of those things.
It's hard to say no. You can't be like, a nice oak log. Like, yeah, I'll take it.
I know we had a big storm here at the start of August where I live. Basically a land hurricane called the derecho, and it took down so many trees. Like a city about 30 miles away lost 90% of their tree canopy. Wow. And it's a pretty big, city, at least for our standards here. But yeah, so I had so many people just being like, do you need this, and this? And eventually, I mean, I have had to say no, but like my direct neighbor, one of his trees fell on our fence actually, and it's a black cherry tree. And so we, like, another neighbor and I were out there with chainsaws. And so I've got enough like rounds for bowls and carved tables to last me a very long time. And then I've got, more people saying, oh, we've got a walnut, or we've got an X. It's like, exactly, when you've got such lovely wood, how do you say no and send it to like a chipper pile? You can't do it.
Yeah.
Especially walnut.
Yeah.
No. So I know from like, just because of watching like some things you've been doing and, back and forth on DM sometimes, that you're kind of getting into a bit of carving yourself. So like, what started that interest, and, what kind of tools and stuff are you working with?
The start of that interest would probably be the wood coming from my brother and trying to find a use for it. And then seeing people like yourself and she's called the Shop Wood Designs.
Yeah. Cecilia. Yep.
Yeah. Seeing what she's doing and just wanting to give it a shot. So for Christmas last year, my mom got me the Arbortech power carving disc. So that was really cool, and started using that on some of the green wood I had. And then for my birthday in August, Shannon got me one of the Cutsall shaping discs. So that's been really fun. I haven't been showing a lot of what I've been doing with that on my feed, since I've been trying to focus on the mosaics, but I have, actually, there's one right here. I've been experimenting and digging out like fruit bowls and things like that. I love the texture that the Arbortech power carving disc gives, and that's,
you have the big one. You have their big one, like the turbo plane. Is that what?
The turbo plane. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got like, I think almost everything. I've got Arbortech, I've got Kutzall, I've got King Arthur, and then I've got this, well, new to the US, but not a new company, the Manpa tools that I've been doing a lot of work with, which is the like extender thing you see that comes off of the angle grinder.
Yep.
And that to me is a lot like the Arbortech. So those things are comparable to each other. And I've found that I enjoy those much better just because of not as much kickback. Because I don't know if you've had that issue with like the turbo plane. You have to be very aware of the grain of the wood.
Yeah.
Because if you catch it at the wrong, I mean, I've thrown a log into myself before with the turbo plane.
It's scary for sure.
Yeah.
I'm always making sure that I'm wearing every single piece of PPE that I own when I use it.
Yeah, so I'm curious because you had gotten, I think you got the Works bench too with the clamps on it. Does it hold up decent with the kickback of the Arbortech, or because I mean they are plastic, so they're not.
It's not ideal.
Yeah,
I know there's probably some better options like the Works horse.
Yeah, the jaw horse. Yeah,
the jaw horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does the bare minimum to hold a workpiece. And for now, it's what I've got. I've got a better vise in my garage, but I can't be throwing wood chips like that inside.
Yeah, so, the chips really fly off of
those.
But yeah, I would say like I don't have a jaw horse either. Cecilia got one. I don't remember what brand she got. I had the chance to meet her in person and chat with her at Workbench Con this year. So we were like geeking out over carving stuff together, but she told me about a jaw horse that she got. I slipping on the brand, but she says it makes the world of difference just because of how it can hold the piece. And I got to try out using one. Kutzall was at Workbench Con, and I spent some time carving in their booth, and they had jaw horses set up too, and it was definitely much more secure, and it made you feel better of just like how secure the piece was held. The problem I had though was their height, and I'm 5'3", so I'd say that's probably, I don't know, average-ish, maybe on the smaller side of average-ish for women, but it kind of just the height made it a little bit of a different angle for when you're holding that angle
they
grinder.
Don't really consider that when they're designing these things.
No,
they're like average male height.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Well, and then you get I don't know if you followed Jackman at all, who does a lot of carving with Arbortech. Met him in person too, and let's just say you could really hurt your neck from looking up to him. I mean, he's outrageously tall. And so, yes, to your point, like stuff is made for, people who are probably closer to his height than to ours.
Yes. Yeah.
But how have you liked it so far, getting into the power carving?
I enjoy it a lot. It's challenging. And I ruin a lot of nice pieces of wood, and I carve a lot of wood until there's nothing left. But just the process, like I'll put podcast on, and I'll put ear protection on, and I'll just like chip away at some wood and learn some things in the process. I've really been enjoying it. Just like how quickly you can hog away materials with it, like compared to if you were using like a chisel in your hand. That's really cool because you can come away at the end of an hour with a bowl. And yeah, because I've got access to nice green wood, I'm really enjoying the product that I'm getting out of it.
So I got to ask you about the green wood, because I have only ever carved seasoned wood. I usually let my logs sit for at least 2 years before I even attempt to start carving on them. Because just with turning is the only background I have when it comes to green wood, and knowing that when you carve the green wood, like if you carve too much at a time, you know, and you're letting it dry, like it can crack or it can warp or those type of things. So I'm just curious, like, have you seen that similar type of wood movement when you're carving the green wood, like afterwards? Are you getting
I've had
any
a little
warpage?
bit of cracking. If I make it so that it's, thin enough that it can dry equally on all sides, that I won't get the cracking.
Mm-hmm.
But like carving the green wood is easier because it's softer, and because for me with this, it's more of about the process and the enjoyment of carving it.
Mm-hmm.
So carving something that's easier, there's an advantage there for me. I can't really speak for people that are trying to make an end product, because like I don't really care if my end product splits, because for me it's about the process.
Mm-hmm.
So the process is more enjoyable when it's green, then I'm going to be using green wood, but I kind of have an advantage there.
Yeah. It's probably something I'm definitely going to try out, because like I said, I've got so much wood now because of the storm that some people have suggested, like, well, why not at least give it a try? Like, maybe carve a bit and then see if it warps and kind of come back to it again. But then I look at that lovely black cherry and I'm like, but I don't want it to crack. It's so pretty.
Truth.
Yeah. So, Shannon, I mean, you say you're in the background breaking things and Britt is fixing them, but but I don't fully believe that. What things are you what things do you enjoy doing the most?
I really enjoy painting.
Okay.
So now that you've gotten onto the mosaics, I really enjoy the painting. I've done a little, some projects on my own, where I was painting Christmas bulbs, and I just start to get into the scroll saw, watching The House of Timber or Pam Sutherland or Mad the Maker. So that's been really enjoyable for me. I help with your filming. I'm starting to get into kind of the administration side. So as you start to sell pieces, I'm going to be doing the accounting. I'm going to be doing perhaps the posting of the products and things like that. So you're more of the creative mind. I guess I'm more of the helper and the breaker, but
the logical business side of things.
Yeah. Well, that's a benefit to have around, that logical business side of things.
Oh yeah, it makes for a perfect team.
It does. Otherwise, you can end up with, someone like myself who's like, I don't know, give me $50 for it. I don't know what to ask for. I only spent 3 weeks on it. No big deal. Where do you hope you guys can start seeing, like, are there new things you're wanting to try out? Hi, Miss Jessie.
Probably hoping I want to have more of an online presence in, like, I want to have my mosaics on like a Shopify website. I want to have my mosaics for sale on Etsy. I want to have online sales, I guess. So like my next step isn't necessarily doing more in the workshop, but doing more on the, selling what I've made in the workshop. And that's the hard part. I spend all day on the computer. I spend my spare time in the workshop. I don't want to spend my spare time again on the computer to make that next step.
Right. Yeah, and it does become a full-time job.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that's where you end up with being somebody like me who has neglected her website for entirely way too long, just because I'd rather be making than updating my website. Yeah.
Yeah. Luckily, I have Shannon who's going to help me with that administration side of things.
Shannon, do you take orders from other people to help do all of that background stuff? Because I might have to get your help.
I might contract out some work for sure.
So I do want to spend some time asking about Especially since you've been getting into some power carving. Maybe it's not stuff you've been always sharing about, but like, has there been any, I don't know, feedback or obstacles you felt like getting into the space being a woman when it's still fairly male dominated?
Not a whole lot, mostly because I'm just stubborn and I don't listen. I think I can do it, so I will do it. We do like, I don't know. We run into some issues when we're at like hardware stores and people think I'm buying a gift for my husband, but it was like, no, like, I want to know about this. Could you teach me directly about this? This isn't a gift. This is for me. When I go to stores to be, purchasing tools
supplies
and stuff,
and,
it's like, please give me your wisdom, not like for me to pass on to my husband. But I mean, I don't know, I'm probably too stubborn to realize that it's actually happening, because I'm like, I can do it. I don't care.
I think the positive messages that you get from other people keep you going as well.
Mm-hmm.
That one, I guess she's a maker. What was the message that you got?
How
you influenced her and how it was such a positive.
Just hearing from other people that I'm an influence for them being like a woman in the maker space, that it gave them the courage to go on and do some power carving. But then it's like, I'm just a byproduct of the women already in the maker space that gave me the courage to do that. So, I mean, it's really good that Instagram shows me that there's representation of women in this space, which gives me that courage to be stubborn and just do it.
Now, what about, I mean, you guys have always been open and honest from the get-go about being a couple. Has there been any negativity in the space about that?
We've been pretty lucky in that regard. There hasn't been a lot of upfront negativity. There's some things I notice when I look at the statistics. Like, I made an anniversary post this year, professing my love to Shannon on our 1-year wedding anniversary, and I noticed that I had a bigger drop in followers than I would on any other normal day, which it's hurtful, but then it's also like, good riddance. Like, what are you doing here if you don't, enjoy my content? I don't, but I mean, it's those things that we have to think about that, other people don't necessarily have to think about.
If you ever want to have sponsors, it's something that you think about that other perhaps male makers wouldn't have to think about, what kind of content you post or how you present yourselves and things like that.
Is that something you've looked at doing or have already gotten into doing, like working with like sponsorship and stuff like that?
Yep. I mean, mostly I don't necessarily reach out, but I've had people reach out to me, and I've had some, products sent to me and stuff like that, which is great. I did reach out to one company during Pride Month to be like, hey, we could represent, the Pride community in this certain space. And it was like crickets in return. So you kind of wonder, it could just be crickets, or you always, being a member of the LGBT community, you always wonder, was it because I'm gay, or was it just because they're not interested? It's just an extra like level of thought you have to have.
Right. I mean, to be fair, I think being that I have especially female friends in several different minority groups, I think that that's always the question, right? And it's like, am I being ignored because I'm gay? Am I being ignored because I'm Black? Am I being ignored because of this? Or am I flat out just being ignored because I'm a woman? Like, there's like, it's
so
like
many levels.
so many levels of it. And then unfortunately, I think because of how most most of us women have been raised, then we sit there and start going, well, but that's not really fair, right? Am I really, I'm questioning if it's happening because of this, but maybe it's just whatever, right? It's not because of this. And giving that person a way out without ever having, mind you, this conversation directly with them. This conversation's always in your own head. But I think, that's why I've been doing some pushing and trying to push in this podcast specifically to those, especially male makers in our community who we've become friends with, to, what harm is there to you of when you get a sponsorship deal, you ask, what female makers are you working with on this? Or have you started working with female makers? Or are you working with any, Black makers or other makers of color? Like, there's nothing that it does you no harm to start asking those questions to help open up the space for us. Because it would be nice to start seeing some more representation when it comes to brand stuff specifically.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. There's a big opportunity there.
Yeah. Are there any, we're getting close to the end of the time, but I do want to make sure I ask. So I know, you've listed some of the tools you've been working with, but what's on that list of like, man, I just really want to have this?
Each month I make like a kind of a to-do list, and it has like things I need for the workshop, things I want for the workshop, things I need for the house, things I want for the shop, like all of these different things. And for the last probably 2.5 years, on my workshop I want a laser engraver and I want a CNC. Like, it's always been on the list. And I've ever since then, any like birthday money or extra money that comes my way has gone into my laser and CNC fund. And I'm there. I have the money put aside to purchase it. But right now it's the space that's holding me back. But yeah, that is like the laser and the CNC I would just love to get.
So as right now, your shop space is like garage space, right? That's your shop space.
It's a 1-car garage that is like our entranceway to our house. It's where we keep all of our hockey gear and our bikes. And then I get the other side of it for my workshop.
She gets the bigger side.
I'm surprised you actually have any room in there for bikes and hockey gear, actually.
Not by choice.
She's being creative with the space.
I keep building like up, putting things higher and higher.
So perhaps maybe at the top of the list actually is like more shop space. And then
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, ladies, we are actually at the end of our time chatting together. But I want to give you the opportunity to let everyone know, like, how can they follow along with you, find more of you on all of the interwebs?
You can find us at britt.builds on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're at brittbuilds.com. We are most active on Instagram, especially in our stories. You can see more of our day-to-day, keep up with our shenanigans there. Britt.builds anywhere, basically.
Awesome. Is there a YouTube channel coming at all in the future?
That is not the goal. No. More wanting to go into the product side of things. I think too much focusing on the video would kind of take away from my enjoyment in the shop if I have to stop and film things. So
it does
YouTube
take longer.
Is not actually the goal for me.
All right.
Yeah.
Just curious. All right. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so again, that was Britt and Shannon of Britt Builds. I will include the links on how you can follow along with them in the show notes on any of the apps you are listening to this episode on, as well as if you happen to be watching this on YouTube, you can find the links on how you can follow along with them down below. All right, if you're really enjoying this podcast and you want to show your support for it, there's a few things you can do. The first is super easy and it doesn't cost you anything, and that is just to make sure that whatever you are listening to or watching this podcast on, that you hit that subscribe button, leave a comment if that is possible, head on over to iTunes, leave a 5-star review. All of that helps the algorithms of all the different apps. Let people know that you enjoy this podcast. It's a good podcast and it helps others find it. Also, you can just share in your Instagram stories or in your feed that you are enjoying the podcast. What's your favorite episode? Let people know all about it. All right, that's super easy, and again, doesn't cost you anything and helps the podcast out for sure. Now, if you want to up your game, if you say, Katie, I think I've done all that, and I'm really loving this podcast. I'm really loving the guests that you have had on, and I want to show more support, head on over to patreon.com/MakerMomPodcast and look at how you can join the tribe over there. There is a $1, $3, and $5 tier level that comes with different merch. All of it gives you full access to bonus content. So for instance, this episode that's on today with Britt and Shannon of Britt Builds was actually recorded as a live podcast interview that all the patrons over on Patreon had access to. So they got to listen and participate in that live. They didn't have to wait for it to be released on the regular normal schedule. So that is a perk. And then there is also a new $30 a month tier level that makes you an official sponsor of the podcast. Get your own little ad spot somewhere within the episode. Those are very limited spots. So if this is something that you think you might be interested in, better check that out sooner rather than later. And then lastly, if you just want to buy some merch, I have stickers. I've got t-shirts. Currently, the website is down though, so make sure if you are interested in that, just hit me up with a DM over on Instagram. That's just at MakerMomPodcast. Shoot me a message, say you want a t-shirt, and I will get you hooked up, or you want a sticker, I'll get you hooked up. All right? So, it is hump day. Thank goodness, right? I hope that you all have a fabulous rest of your week. Hope you are getting to make something, be creative, get those creative juices flowing, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. Until next week, I will see you later.
Wonder Woman, now the world is ready.